The dawn of a new Guda is on the horizon, and that means new servants. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here with a servant spotlight for the Guda Meiji Ishin event. Today we'll be taking a look at the lowly berserker who wants to bully you, Chacha. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. Now, onto Chacha's stats. Chacha has a max HP of 11,025 and a max attack of 8,945, which becomes 9,839 when taking into account her berserker class modifier. Compared to the other 4-star berserkers, Chacha has a high HP but the lowest attack stat, and when compared to all other 4-stars in general, both her attack and HP are below average. Overall, she has poor stats, especially for a berserker. Taking a look at her skills, her first skill is Golden Rule Misfortune rank B. It increases her NP gauge per turn for 3 turns between 5 and 10%, depending on level, and it also increases her NP gain when she's attacked for 3 turns between 20 and 50%, also depending on level. Her second skill is Innocent Monster Flame rank C. It generates between 5 and 10 crit stars per turn for 3 turns, depending on level, but it also decreases the critical star gather rate of all allies except herself by 50% for 3 turns. And finally, her last skill is Beloved Mistress of the Sun rank EX. It decreases an enemy's defense by 10% for 5 turns, and then decreases their defense every turn afterwards for 5 turns between 5 and 10%, depending on level. Moving on to her passives, Chacha only has one, and that is Madness Enhancement rank E+. It increases her Buster card effectiveness by 3%. Taking a look at her deck and Noble Phantasm, Chacha has a full Buster deck with Quick Arts Buster 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 and a Buster Noble Phantasm. Chacha's Noble Phantasm is Kenron Makai Nichirin Jo. It deals damage to all enemies with between a 300 and 500% damage modifier depending on level. It also decreases their critical hit rate by 20% for 3 turns, and inflicts burn for 5 turns, dealing between 500 and 2500 damage per turn depending on overcharge. Taking a closer look at Chacha's cards, we see that her quick card hits 3 times, her arts hits twice, her Buster card hits 5 times, and her extra attack hits 4 times. She has an NP gain rate of 1.03% and a star rate of 4.9%. This is average Noble Phantasm gain for a berserker and some poor star generating due to the heavy concentration of Buster cards in her deck. The first of 2 new berserkers coming with the Meiji Ishin event, Chacha is a free reward for completing the event. Her stats for a berserker, or a 4-star for that matter, are very poor, but stats are not the whole story, and she does pack quite a unique skill set. Golden Rule gives Chacha a surefire way of charging her Noble Phantasm gauge. Specifically, it gives her 30% NP charge over the course of 3 turns, which means it's tailor-made to be used with Kaleidoscope or Imaginary Element when farming. Simply activating this skill turn 1 is going to allow Chacha to have a guaranteed NP by wave 3, making her quite reliable for farming experience or QP or events in general, since berserkers with self-Noble Phantasm charges are very rare. The extra NP gain she receives from being hit is also nice, but ideally you should avoid getting your berserker hit. Chacha's other 2 skills are also fairly unique for a berserker. Innocent Monster makes her into a pseudo star engine, which can potentially work for crit teams since it has a short cooldown, but the side effect of also decreasing an ally's star weight is a serious demerit on the skill. Chacha's own star weight is way too low to ever gather any of these stars that she generates, and by lowering the weights of her allies, it adds more randomization to the star distribution, so the skill is inconsistent. Beloved Mistress, on the other hand, is Chacha's signature skill. It applies a defensive debuff on an enemy that increases in effectiveness every turn for 5 turns. Essentially, at rank 10, this skill will apply a 10% defense debuff on an enemy that then becomes 10% stronger every turn until it reaches 50% at turn 5. The important thing to note about this skill is it has a 5-turn cooldown, so it's effectively a permanent debuff since Chacha can recast it as soon as it ends. The defense debuff also persists even if Chacha dies or is swapped out, so it effectively always lasts 5 full turns. This gives tremendous utility to the team and can set up some devastating combos for your allies. Skill priority for Chacha should be Golden Rule first to maximize your farming efficiency, which is what Chacha's main purpose is, followed by Beloved Mistress for that utility, and then finally Innocent Monster last. Chacha's Noble Phantasm is a straightforward AoE. It also decreases enemy crit rate and burns them, but those effects are not as important. What is important is that her Noble Phantasm is perfect for farming any small and medium-sized enemy waves. Farming is Chacha's bread and butter. There are stronger AoE berserkers out there, but Chacha has the advantage of a Noble Phantasm charge to allow her to be much more consistent. She's especially great if you're newer to the game, free to play, or just lacking in any decent AoE riders or other servants to farm with. She'll make your daily farming a lot more manageable. Her other major strength comes from her defense debuff. It's one of the most powerful in the game and can be great setup if you time it correctly. If you can keep Chacha alive, you can permanently have this debuff active. But even if you can't keep her alive, it is still a good strategy to have Chacha activate the skill and then swap her out and prepare your team to go all out on turn 5 with an NP Brave Chain, because Chacha's debuff is effectively equivalent to a team-wide 50% attack buff in certain scenarios. The problem with Chacha lies everywhere else. For one thing, despite being a berserker, her damage is pitiful, even at Noble Phantasm 5, and you're likely going to get more damage out of an NP5 Kyohime or an NP2 4-star berserker if you have them. Chacha also has no straight up attack buff or buster buff for herself, so she needs supports to buff her if you want her to do any real damage. She basically is just strong enough to kill hands and doors. While her defense buff does provide a lot of utility, it also requires a lot of timing and setup. Her star generating is neat, but impractical since she is too vulnerable to make long-term use of it. She also has the weakest version of Madness Enhancement with an abysmal attack stat for her class, so even her non-NP damage is lackluster when compared to other berserkers. If you want to get the most out of Chacha, you need to give her some strong supports. Team building around Chacha is simple and not much more different from any other berserker. The two things that she needs above all else are damage buffs and survivability. If you're going for damage, build a team around your Noble Phantasm. Servants like Shakespeare, Nightingale, and Liz can be perfect complements. Shakespeare not only has a buster buff, but a targetable NP charge, which when combined with Chacha's own NP charge, gives you a 50% NP charge, allowing you to make great use of craft essences like Golden Sumo or Halloween Princess. Nightingale also has a targetable mana burst, which will drastically improve your NP damage, and Liz can double buff Chacha with her sadistic charisma, as well as complement Chacha's defense debuff with her own. For survivability, you can stick her with your strongest healers. Personally, I recommend Media Lily, Iris Veil, or Jeanne. Media Lily is the complete white mage package, offering the best healing in the game and debuff removal. But if you don't have her, then Iris Veil is a suitable substitute, while Jeanne provides invincibility, healing, and she can also generate some stars. Chacha's Bondcraft Essence is Adzuki Beanbag. It increases the NP strength of all allies by 25%, but lowers defense by 10%. And this craft essence just isn't worth it. Chacha is squishy enough as she is. I recommend using craft essences that provide starting NP charge so that you can maximize your farming efficiency. Kaleidoscope, Golden Sumo, Halloween Princess, or Teacher and I all make excellent choices. Kaleidoscope is the best option by far for doing anything like daily QP or EXP farming, while Golden Sumo and Halloween Princess are good if you need to farm something a bit bulkier than hands or doors. And Teacher and I can be useful if you want to exploit her innocent monster skill and you don't have a team with any archers or riders in it. If you're more focused on keeping her alive so that you can make better use of her defense down skill, then I suggest using Volumin Hydrangum, Chaldea Lifesavers, or Necromancy. Volumin Hydrangum is the most consistent and powerful CE for keeping you alive. Chaldea Lifesavers offers survivability along with NP generating, and Necromancy is good if you just want to go full meme. For future proofing, I highly recommend using Bittersweet when that comes out. It provides 2 hits of invincibility and a 25% buff to your NP damage, which gives Chacha and pretty much any other berserker both good defense and damage. Overall, Chacha can be a very useful servant for many players. She provides a good solution for farming pretty much anything that is lower level. Her Noble Phantasm charge makes her much more reliable. She has a powerful defense debuff for teams to take advantage of, and she has some niche star generating. However, outside of just fulfilling the role of low-level farming, she's severely lacking. She has no survival skills, making her fragile even by berserker standards. She has bad stats, she has below average damage, and she's outclassed by nearly all the other AoE berserkers. So she gets a C from me. Chacha is pretty much just going to be a filler servant until you can get someone better for that role. Yes, she can farm dailies efficiently, but so can most other servants, and all the other AoE berserkers are far stronger than she is. And those are my thoughts on Chacha. Even though I don't think she holds much water compared to the other berserkers or 4 stars in general, she is a fantastic servant to get if you're a new player and need help clearing some early game story content or farming dailies, so I do advise aiming for her if your servant roster is lacking. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight, so we're on you out. Later.